All right, we're going to go back to solving equations, but this time we're solving equations with fractions. All right, so here's how I say to do it. First of all, remember when you solve an equation, you absolutely need to show me all the steps. It just has to be that way. Whether you like it or not, you need to do it because you will become a better mathematician when you get your process down. So the first step you want to do is change your fractions to have common denominators. So I'm going to rewrite this to be y minus 3/8 is equal to 6/8. Do you understand? All I did was change this fraction to have 8 in the denominator and say 4 times 2 is 8. Therefore, 3 times 2 is 6. 6/8 equals 3/4. Now, I could go ahead and add, remember how we did this? This is a negative. First, I want to do additive inverse to create 0 pairs over there. And add 3/8 right here. Remember, we're adding. This becomes 0. And I'm left with y is equal to 9/8. And you can stop right there. Don't change that into a mixed number. Don't change that into a decimal. Don't ever change that into a decimal. Because when you check it, it's a whole lot easier when you have the same denominator and everything is set up just like this. 9 minus 3 is 3. 9 minus 3 is 6 in my world. 6 over 8, which is the same thing as 3/4, and that's what we started with, and that's what we wanted right there. So again, rewrite your fractions to have common denominators, then start your process. Don't change it into a mixed number. So again, I'm going to rewrite this. I need to have 6 as my common denominator. So 3 times 2, so 2 times 2 is 4, is equal to x plus negative 6/36. Go ahead and now get x by itself, additive inverse to create 0. And I'm left with 7/6. That's your x. Plug it back in. And I would plug it back into this problem right here when the denominators, because you'd have to go back and change all the denominators again. You already have them changed. So 7 plus negative 3 is 4/6, and it works. You do one of two things. You could do several things. I could look at this, and I'm just going to go ahead and work with it the way it is. So I'm going to add additive inverse to positive 8 6/10 would be negative 8 6/10, just like that. Is equal to, go ahead and take 11 2/10. And are you going to add or subtract on this one? They're different signs, so definitely make sure that you subtract them. 2 6/10. There you go. You could change them to decimal, or you can change them to fractions, but I think they'd be too big as fractions. Or you can multiply through by 10, which I wouldn't recommend doing. You need to know how to work with decimals and fractions and be comfortable with both of them. Then plug it back in, 2 6/10 plus 8 6/10, 11 2/10, it checks. Same thing, add a negative 9 3/10 to both sides and get what your b is equal to. This one, I'm going to divide both sides. It's multiplication, undo with division. A is equal to 4/10. Hopefully you know how to work with decimals. And then plug it back in and check it. Let me erase this. Same thing. Divide both sides by -6. Please remember that 2 negatives make a positive. And you're left with m equals 8/10. And then, of course, check it. Okay, I'm going to use the symmetric property. Remember that? Remember the symmetric property? If 2 plus 3 equals 5, then 5 equals 2 plus 3. That means you're just rotating around the equal sign. 1/6, the only way to get rid of a fraction is the multiplicative inverse. Remember, the multiplicative inverse makes 1. So if I have 1/6, multiplicative inverse would be 6 over 1. So remember, additive inverse is for addition. Multiplicative inverse is for multiplication. Should be easy to remember. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the multiplicative inverse so I can make 1 on this side. See ya. And do I need to put it over 1 here? No, because this isn't a fraction. So then I'm just left with x is equal to 6 times 8 is 48. Check it. 1/6 times 48 over 1. Cross cancel, you're definitely left with 8. Multiplicative inverse, what's your multiplicative inverse of 3/5? 5/3, right? So you have 3/5 t equals -6. Grab that different color because it gives me something to do. Let's go with green. I don't think we've done green. Times 5 over 3. Like that. This becomes 1 because that's what multiplicative inverse is equal to, is 1, as opposed to additive inverse, which equals 0. So then I'm left with, cancel here to be 1 and 2. And I have t is equal to -10. Sure. There's your solution. Check it. 3/5 times 10 over 1. It's negative, actually. Cancel this to be 1 and 2. 3 times -2 is -6. That's what we started with. Multiply both sides by 5 over 1. M is equal to 45, sorry. Multiply both sides by 8 over 5. Don't be sloppy in your work, by the way. I'm just going fast on these a little bit. So A is equal to 16. I don't want to lose your attention. Good luck. Love solving equations.